Thanks all for joining us here today so we can do a really in-depth dive of what we've been developing for the last couple of years and what's available today in regards to the functionality for CCH iFirm personal tax and accounts production. Before we dive in, let's just have a quick round of introductions for those that don't know me. I'm Dorcas Whitty. I'm one of the senior product managers here at Wolters Kluwer, responsible for the personal tax products as well as MTD. And I've been in tax technology for, gosh, almost 9 years now. Started off my career at Thomson Reuters, working on the one source corporate side, delivering MTD for that there. And then kind of moved across to different product roles within the tax space. So worked in consultancy at EY on indirect tax, and also worked on corporation tax for Alpha tax products. So very much been in tax technology for a long time, thoroughly enjoy it, and my main speciality is around the data elements and driving efficiencies amongst tax workflows. I'll hand over to Lamorna for her brief introduction.
Thank you, Dorcas. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lamorna Harris. I'm a Senior Product Manager for Accounts Production and Review and Tag. I have been with the business quite a long time, so 27 years. I did 18 years as a professional services consultant, so product specialist for accounts production, also practice management. And then I moved into go-to-market for 3 years, and now the last, or the remaining of it, I've been working as the senior product manager.
Thanks, Sam. And before we dive into the demos, I just wanted to give us a really quick helicopter view around what the current landscape has been like for CCH and what our transition into the cloud means, and giving you a bit more insights around why it's taken us so long to get to where we are today. So as most of you are well aware, the CCH as a product suite has been around for ages, 30 years, and it's been a trusted solution for those years for accounting professionals. And over that lifespan, we've got almost 22,000 accounting customers of ours that use our product suite, and out of that, 65% of them have stated that they are extremely satisfied with our service as well as the depth and product offerings that we have within the suite. Out of the 2,000, we service roughly 15 out of the top 20 accountancy firms for personal tax. So that's a big market cap for us, and we're super, super proud of being able to service those customers. And that's just a testimony to the compliance depth that we have and the breadth of coverage that we support, so that we can cater to quite basic sole trades, but all the way up to really, really complex clients. We also service 6 of the top 20 accountancy firms for accounts production. Again, very much proud of that, and we're looking to scale within that space. So having all of that functional richness within our product capability and being able to service 32 out of the top 100 firms, that journey to cloud hasn't been easy. There's so much functionality, and you can't just lift and shift that over in a short amount of time. It's going to take us a fair bit. So what we've done is focused around our existing users, and you'll get to see that as part of the demo, and what that user journey looks like from central into our cloud applications. And we've decided to build out in iterations, focusing on let's get the bare knuckles out there first in terms of what functionality do we need to service a large majority of our customer base, in terms of things like the most commonly used supplementary pages for tax that are low complex, as well as some of the quick wins from a formats perspective with accounts. So that's the development journey that we've taken, and hopefully you can see some of that, and we'll talk to what the future looks like in terms of the product deliveries that myself and Lam are working on. As we've been developing iFirm, personal tax and accounts, our key focus has been around addressing some of your top challenges. One of the things that we're really cognizant of is the fact that we don't just want to lift and shift the product functionality from central into the cloud. We know we are best of breed in the market, and we service our clients quite well, but we also know that there are efficiencies within some of the functionalities that we have that we can enhance. We're also quite aware that we do have some gaps in our product functionality that some of our competitors do pretty well, and we want to bridge some of those gaps as well. So we're looking at really driving those efficiencies by removing some of the manual processes. One of the key ones is around data collection, but Land's also working on some really amazing capabilities around AI, and she'll talk to that. And that kind of goes into us utilizing advanced technology with the opportunity for us to develop in the cloud. It gives us more leeway to look at potential other integrations that we can plug into our cloud application, and utilizing things like Gen AI, robotics, and other tools to really drive home that efficiency, and bridge that gap. We're also looking at increased regulatory complexities within the tax landscape, MTD being a really good example of that, and we're looking to build out those capabilities within our cloud platform. We're also very keen to address some of the corporate demands that you as an accountancy firm might have, as well as those customer expectations. A lot of the times you are up against it when it comes to time, to one, get the tax preparations complete and submitted to the deadline, but equally when you're providing some additional services to your customers like tax advisory, that is really where the value added is. But a lot of the time, because you're working downstream on the preparation of the compliance, you don't really have time to look at the tax planning, and helping your clients achieve both their personal and business goals. So hopefully if we're able to address some of these elements around removing some of those manual processes, utilizing advanced technologies like AI, and adding in more regulatory scope within our products, it will definitely help with alleviating some of that stress and pain around the corporate and customer demands. So with that, I'll hand it over to Lamorna, and she'll go through accounts production.
Thank you, Dorcas. Let me just share my screen. Basically, what I'm going to do is I've got this particular client sitting in accounts production in on-premise, and what I'd like to do is start work on 2025 accounts within the cloud. So what I'm going to do is actually migrate that data across. But just before I do that, what I want to do is just preview the set of accounts, just so you can see that there is quite a bit of data in here. So I can see that I've got a couple of directors, the registered office, I've got the associated records coming across in terms of the auditor and the bank. And then if I scroll further down, I won't go through the whole of the accounts because there's quite a lot of data in here. But we've got the strategic report, the director's report, and also we've got the P&L and the balance sheet. I'll get there in a second. There we go, there's the P&L, and then followed by the balance sheet. And then if I just quickly move on to the notes to the financial statements with the accounting policies, we can see there that I've got three rates and methods with regards to the fixtures and fittings, computers and motor vehicles. Okay, so once I've previewed the set of accounts, so now I'm ready to migrate the data. Now I've got 2 accounting periods here, but the software will migrate a maximum of 5 periods, and that is because we have the 5-year summary report within the management area. So that's why we cap it at the 5 years. So in order to migrate the data, I simply click onto this little icon in the ribbon bar, and it will present me with the question. So I'll say yes. And what it's doing at this stage is loading all the tables, all the relevant information, and it's now going to push that data across into the cloud. It doesn't take very long at all. There we go, it's done. And now we will see it transferring this data through into the cloud. So I just need to simply log in, and then we will see the data being presented. And there we go, it's doing its process. And there we go. So it didn't actually take that long. So the first page that I land on within the new cloud accounts production is what we call the overview page. And what we can see here is that we have this ratios. So I've got the net profit ratio and equally the liquidity ratio from the balance sheet. Now, what I like about this is that this, well, one, it's new. We don't have this in on-prem. And number two is that I can view that page very quickly via the hyperlink from the actual overview screen. And that's the same for the P&L as well. I can click on this hyperlink here. Now, what we're doing is we're going to be expanding these ratios. So it's a very visual sort of screen in terms of which ratios you might want to have a look at. So you can then pick and choose which ones you want to show. And we're also building AI into this. So what it will do is actually create a report for you for the interpretation of those ratios. Why have certain like admin expenses fluctuated, things like that. So we're going to actually get AI to do that work for you and to produce a nice PDF report. So that's new. So the next thing, the next part of my process then, I've migrated the data across. So it's probably a good idea that I look at the financial statements just to make sure everything has come across as expected. So I'm just going to preview the accounts. So if I click on view here, and then it will load up the full set of accounts. And then I can just make sure that what I have migrated has come across correctly. So let's just double check the contents. Yeah, we've got the directors. I have the registered office. I've also got the associated records. And if I scroll further down, I've got the strategic report, directors report. Let's have a look at the profit and loss. And then also followed by the balance sheet. And then finally, I'll stop when I get to the accounting policies. I just want to make sure that those rates and methods have come across, which they have. So I'm happy with this. So the next stage of the process would be then is that I want to work on 2025 accounts. So I'm going to run the year-end routine. Now at this stage, because I'm going to import data from a CSV file, I don't want the reversing journals to be created. So I'm just going to leave the bullet point in no, and I'm going to click on to continue. So now I'm in 2025. What I'm now going to do is go to settings and import. And just before I import the data, I just wanted to show you something else which is new that we have actually brought into the application. And this is basically a validation check with Companies House. So if I click on verify here, and what that will do is call out to Companies House, and it will show me any sort of matches or any mismatches. And I can see that I've got a mismatch there because of the actual, I've put Greater London into the address where it should have just been Kingston upon Thames. And we're going to expand this out as well. So we will be verifying the directors, company secretary, and equally any members if it was an LLP. So this will actually, we will actually bring in more functionality as we go along. So coming back to import, I want to bring in the current year's trial balance. So I'm going to click on to upload a file, which I prepared recently. So year 3, and then what I do here is select the current trial balance, and also I could select a mapping if I wanted to. It's an extensive list, and those of you who use the on-prem solution, and if you're used to importing data, you know that you can select various different mappings, and it's, as I say, it's an extensive list here, but I'm going to select none in this example because my file contains the CCH nominal codes. Now, all is okay because I can see all items are mapped. However, if there was something that wasn't mapped, I'd get a red cross. And then what I could do is look at the edit mapping and then have a look to see which ones require attention. But at the moment, I've got, my mapping, I've got 71 codes and they're all mapped, so that's all good. So if I just go back at this stage and I'm going to import the data, and then what I will do is switch across into the trial balance, and then I can see I've got 2025 and I've got 2024 data. Now this again is the same as on-premise. You can drill down, you can edit transactions, and you can discard if you wanted to. So that's the settings and import and how we import data. Just going to move on to journals quickly. I'm not going to actually put in a journal, but if I just move on to journals, I just want to show you at this stage, we do have the 4 types, reversing, opening balance and restatement. Now you might be wondering, those of you who use the advisors journals, where are they? Because I can't see them down the left hand side. Well, the reason being, this is actually live. This is our production product. Advisors journals we are currently working on at the moment. They will be released in a couple of weeks' time. So part 1, we've developed the add, edit, delete functionality, and part 2, which will be released in a couple of weeks, as I say, will be the profit reconciliation reports, the potential, the adjustments, etc. So they are coming. And what will happen is you'll have a new option within the journal screen called advisors, and you can sort of switch between the two. So moving on then, I just want to spend some time on the accounts disclosures. This looks very similar to as it does in on-prem, but the good thing here is that you don't have to click on the little plus symbol to expand to get to the subnodes. All you do is click on the actual main heading, and then it will open up, or it will expand those subnodes below. So if I click on the strategic report, and then we can see that it will open that up. And the same questions apply. So this is basically the same as on-prem. It looks and feels very similar. The only thing that you can't do, that what we've changed within from on-prem to here, is that we've basically stopped formulas from being edited, because some of you might be aware that some of the formulas are very long. They can sort of span a paragraph. So you can edit any text around it, but just not text that is highlighted or grayed out, because that is formula driven. So once we've looked at the disclosures and we're happy with that, and we've added in our journals, the next thing to do is to view the financial statements again. And just a quick note here that we have split out the financial statements. So in on-prem, you've got them in a collection sort of coming down the screen. They're horizontally going across. So you've got your management pages still, they're all there. And equally, you have the lead schedules as well. So if I just go back to full accounts, a couple of things to point out here. You've still got the filter option. You can also include, exclude pages or notes. But here, it's telling me that there's something wrong with the strategic report and the director's report, and equally the balance sheet. And if we take a look over on the right-hand side, we have this validation check. Now, this validation check is very similar to the exception report that you currently have within on-premise. So it's just basically stating that there are some warnings here and information. So I would expect then that the strategic report and the director's report have not been dated, because I haven't actually finalized the accounts yet. So as soon as I actually action one of the validations, then this little counter here will then go down and it will disappear from the actual report that requires attention. So that's new. The next thing is, if I just go back to the, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to click on the front cover. Let me just close this down. And what I'd like to do is go back to print preview options. and just mention the fact that we do have the members copy, and equally we have the filing copy. And also, what this is new as well, you don't have to attach by dragging and dropping or adding pages to the collection. You can actually do this from the right hand side of the window by simply choosing the reports that you want to add from the management collection to the actual members copy. So again, that's new. I close that down. Also, within print preview options, if I click on download here, you'll see that we can download into PDF format, into Word, XML, and to CCH document management if you have CCH document management. Now, the reason why that we've actually got XML here is because Review and Tag currently is not in the cloud. However, that is a separate sort of project that I'm currently working on. So it will be eventually in the cloud. But as Dorcas mentioned earlier, there's still quite a lot of work to get done in terms of I've got to get all the formats across into the cloud. So currently at the moment, we have the unincorporated master pack, which supports the sole trader and the partnership. We have FRS 105 and we have FRS 102. So that's what we currently have available now. So the idea being we export the XML, and then what we would do is we would go into Review and Tag, and then we would just simply load up that file. So that's the one, WK. And then it would be business as usual. So you just use Review and Tag like you would in the normal way, and you would just go through and review the validations, excuse me, edit or add or whatever you might need to do within Review and Tag. So if I just go back to the cloud, finally here we've got the tax data. Now what this is, sorry, that is still loading in the background, but if we can just ignore that for the moment. Because corporation tax isn't in the cloud at the moment, but again, it will be coming into the cloud. So what we can do in the interim is we can either mark the figures as draft or final, and then what we do, we download it into a text file. And then what we would do is import that. Or if you use a third party, you can download it as an Excel file and then import that Excel file into the third party. But let me just show you the context of the text file. So the content will be, you've got the basic information, then we've got the DPL followed by the tangible fixed asset. So that's all the information that would then get imported into the tax return. So if I just switch back into on-prem, and I'll just show you, this is where you would import it. So import CCH iFirm from what I've just exported. Okay, so that's how we would get the figures in. And we can see here that I've done one earlier. So just back to the cloud then. Now, what happens with on-prem? So what I've done, I'll just quickly recap. I've migrated 2 years worth of data. I roll forward to the next accounting period, 2025. I've imported some data. We've sort of shown you journals and the disclosures. I've reviewed the financial statements, and basically I can see or shown how we can export the data and import that into personal tax, into corporation tax. So what happens in on-prem world? So let me just switch back. Let me go back to the client and just refresh that. So over on the right-hand side, basically, because I've migrated the data, there's a little tick that appears in CCH iFirm. And also there's a little message, bottom right-hand corner says migrated. And then if I go into the accounting period, the 2 prior periods, we can see that it's finalized. And if I try to unfinalize the accounts, it says I can't do that because those 2 accounting periods have been migrated to the cloud. So if I just choose OK at that stage, and equally on the page, on the job page summary, I don't know if any of you use this, but there's an accounts production job page summary report, which is a really nice feature because it's a quick way of accessing the accounting period as opposed to going through the client search. And what we can see here is globally any of these clients that have been migrated to the cloud. So it will show you either from the actual client itself with the accounting periods, or if you want to see a global, then I would use the job page summary report. Okay, so just coming back to the cloud then, what I'm going to do is, if I can get rid of this, I'm just going to switch to a different client, and I'm going to go into a sole trader. So my client is called Harry Potter, because what we also have is this tax data. So we can either mark it as draft or final. Now, as soon as you either choose draft or final, what will happen is Personal Tax now in the cloud is ready to consume this data. So the roadmap. I mentioned around about the formats that we still do have quite a lot of work to do. But I mentioned that now for early adopter, we do have the unincorporated FRS 105, 102. Advisors' journals will be ready. We're also working on drill down and also editing the financial statements. So that will be ready. So what you can do today will be ready by December. And what we're also working on with that as well is that we are trying to make the editing a lot more simpler for you, and also bring in some sort of like auto editing in terms of the classic one, for example, is when you have the balance sheet and the signatory and the line goes over to the second page, and that's all that exists on that page. So what we're doing is we're going to ask the software get the software to automatically shrink it to fit. So you don't have to then make local the page, make that change and save it. So things like that, we're trying to get the software to be a little bit more intuitive, and also make the whole process of editing easier for you. So you will have editing by the end of December, and then the other formats will be coming in. So the next master pack will be the group consolidation in quarter one. Well, hopefully we'll have that sooner than quarter one 2026, but hopefully we'll see. And then followed by the rest of the other formats. So that's the LLPs, 105, 102, charities, IFRS consolidations, academies, medical, farms, 102 and 105, and also pensions. Can you go to the next slide, please, Dorcas? And just a quick summary of what does get migrated. So as I've mentioned, the master packs, accounting periods, a maximum of 5 years to support the 5-year summary. Officers will get the proprietor, the partner's names, also linked nominals will get converted as well, directors' names, contact and addresses. So all of that information plus the accounting data will get migrated. And I think that is me done.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lam. So on the personal tax side, before I jump into the demo, just to give you guys a brief overview of what you will see in terms of what we've got built in today from a functionality perspective and what supplementary pages we do support. Like I mentioned at the start, we've taken an iterative approach to product development, and we started off with a sole trader proposition. So the pages that we've got built so far is to allow us to support that, and quite basic sole traders today. So we've built in forms such as land and property. We've also got employments. We've got self-employment short and full. We've also got the SA 104, so partnership short. We will be building out the full partnership next quarter. And then we've also got a bunch of allowances and reliefs also built out in there. And then obviously we've got some of the core capabilities to allow you to prepare and file a tax return. That includes generating a tax bundle. But there are some things that are missing, which I'll talk to as part of the roadmap capabilities, and that is essentially things like the backing schedules, which is something that the team and I are developing as we speak this quarter, and then also the cover letter. The cover letter is a major area of improvement for us. We really want to do something creative and agile and smart around that, especially where we're talking about removing some of the manual processes and driving efficiencies. So that's just going to take us a bit more time around doing discovery, understanding what are some of your pain points and challenges around the transmitter letter, cover letter today, and then looking at how we could utilize some, creative technologies like AI as an example as part of that deliverable. So those are things that will come. In terms of how we are looking in terms of our build, so like I mentioned, what we've got today is that functionality for sole traders. What we're building out now is adding in additional pages and more complex pages and more detailed pages. So we started work on building out the foreign pages, so the SA 106. So by the end of the quarter, we'll have that released, and then we'll complete the SA 106 forms next quarter and move on to doing things like the trust pages and also the capital gains pages. The aim for us is that by the end of the year, we should be able to support all of the supplementary pages aside from MP, so Scottish, UK, Welsh and Ireland, as well as laws. We won't be able to support them until after Q2 next year. And that's simply because from a prioritisation perspective, we know the quantity and our users aren't using those forms a lot. So that's why it's been pushed out, so we can get some of those remittance capital gains pages built out. What we're also looking to build out, and I'll touch on this really quickly because there's a separate webinar on MTD, which is on May 20th, just a cheeky little shout out on that if you haven't subscribed already. So that's in flight. We will be ready for the pilot to support you guys, and we're looking to release in mid-May. Partnerships, we've started development work on that last year, and again the aim is we'll be able to support you for simple partnerships by the end of the year, and from Q1 next year, so April next year for your 2026-27 tax return, we'll be able to support more complex partnerships so that you can start to use that, use the cloud for those partnerships as well. I won't talk on trust just yet, but expats is something that we'll also have by the end of the year so that you can work on those. For trust and CGT, for those that do use it, it seems like it's way into the distant future with us delivering it in 2027. But what we are looking to build out is once we've got the trust pages built for the SA 100, we are building out integrations for those that do use trust and CGT so that we can push the central figures within your trust returns and populate it into your individuals in the cloud as a bridging offering until we get full-blown trust and CGT developed in the cloud. So that will be an interim solution in the short term, and we're looking to start development on those early next year. So that's just a brief overview around the roadmap. I will jump into the demo. So similar to accounts production, our starting place is going to be central, and we've built out integration so that we're not adding any friction points to your existing processes when it comes to accessing or generating an iFirm return or client from central. And that's simply because this is where all of your client data sits, and this is where you do all of your reporting. So we want to be able to centralize that for the time being in one place, and that place being in CCH Central. So in this example, we've got a blank client, and we want to basically start creating a tax return for them. So we've got our tax year selected as 2025 and our return type. One thing to note is that in iFirm, the starting tax year is 2025. So if we were to select anything historic, we won't have the option to generate that tax return in the cloud. And that's simply because we wanted to accelerate development on getting some of the core elements in. So we focused on having 2025 as the starting year in the cloud. So I've got that selected. I then have the option CCH Personal Tax Central would always be your default selection, but I can choose to create that in iFirm. If this was an existing client that I had been working on for years and had a prior tax return, for any of the data sources that we do support in the cloud, you will be able to roll them forward. One caveat, if there was a data source that we didn't support in the cloud but was in that client's tax return, let's say capital gains is something that's not yet available in the cloud, we do flag that to you and we will automatically generate that client in Central for you. So where we are moving to the cloud and we don't have a workflow solution just yet, we do still provide you the capabilities to link to your existing central workflow. So in this instance, I've got a standard workflow that I have, which I'll link to so that I can drive my reportings that I have in CCH reports. And then it will just create that tax year for me. So what it's doing, it's just pushing in the details of the client. So all of the client records, the client name, the national insurance number, anything that sits within that client's information will be passed on into iFirm. So in this instance, we've got a blank tax return for us to start working on. One thing you will notice is that we don't have anything in terms of all of the supplementary pages listed, and that was based off of feedback from our customers. We were looking to simplify, and our customers want to simplify the experience in Central and only want to focus on what is relevant for that client. So if we had rolled forward information, all of the data sources and pages will be present here, but you only see what is relevant for that client. In this instance, we can then start to build that tax return. So we can choose to select all of the applicable elements. So let's say this client has some child benefits. They also have an employment. Let's say they've also got some interest from banks and UK unit trusts. Let's say they're also an accidental landlord. They've got one UK ordinary property. And then we can also add in the fact that they are a student, so they've got some student loan repayments that they need to add in. So then we can add all of those elements in and we can start the data preparation process. I'll just go into a client that's got a bit more data in it, where we've started to work on it. So I can clearly see from this view, and we've taken some elements of Central in here as well, where I've got elements in green that I've already signed off and there's things that I need to work on. So for example, rent a room relief, I need to have a quick view at, and nothing's changed there. So what I can do is I can add in a self-employment because I know that's applicable to this client but isn't present. I can add in the details and then we can start work. We have had feedback around the tax calculation not being present like it is in Central, and we are looking to bring that back in. So here we've got our blank form that we can start to work on. So I can add in things like the business details. And one of the things that we wanted to improve on was how we link information between the platform. We want to make it as easy and simple as possible. So we've got this capability here where we can link data and pull it into our form so that it can populate our income, expenses and our balance sheet. So this data is coming from accounts production, but we are investigating how we could link to other data sources, such as bookkeeping providers. So we're doing that for MTD. There is a use case for us to link that there. So once we've developed it for MTD, then we can easily utilize that functionality for personal tax as well. So Lamorna, right before she finished her demo, pushed some data to tax or marked it as draft. So here I can search for that business and I can see that for the accounting period, the trading name, and also the tax status and the last time that data was updated. So I can create that link and then I can import the information. I can have a quick preview around what that consists of, so the turnover, the income and expenses, and some of the balance sheet information. If I am happy with that, I can import that information in, and if I scroll down, we can see that that's now populated all of the data input fields. So our income's been populated, our expenses, and then our balance sheet has also been populated. One thing you might have noticed is that the input fields are now grayed out, and that's because of that link. So if you did want to make any changes, those changes would need to come from accounts. So if you updated any information in accounts, you will be notified within personal tax that there's new data, and for you to import that information in. If I wanted to add in some additional information, so let's say I know this client pretty well. Oops, if I just scroll down to wages, I know that the wages have gone up, let's say 10% from last year. I can also add in some additional notes. And I can save that, and that would appear within the white spaces. So what I can do now is, if I was happy with this information, I can mark it as complete, and then I can go ahead and save the data entry that I've just done. But in this instance, I'll just show you how you can, if you have a data source that isn't relevant for the client, we do give you that opportunity to also remove it from the tax return. You will get a notification around the NIC adjustments that it's been deleted, and you can remove that as well. So we can have a view of our tax returns. We can either view it with an IR mark, and the system will generate that for you, or without, just for you to see how the tax return is shaping up as you're working through the data entry. And then you can skip through the pages as well with this drop down here. And then we give you the opportunity to also download it as well. If we go into the tax calculation, again, we'll look to replicate how the tax calculation is visible, similar to how it looks today in Central, but we also give you the opportunity to download that. If I wanted to now generate my tax bundle, we can start to do that. And you can do that within the finalised tax return page. And this is essentially equivalent to the online filing. So you can come in here and you can do things like adding in your attachments, doing your validations, and also submitting to HMRC. If you were making any amended returns and wanting to submit that, you'll be able to flag that it's an amended return from this screen as well. Before I upload my attachments, we have moved the exceptions panel. So as you would have noticed throughout, we've been getting messages that appear here on the top right, just letting us know when things are a success and completed, and also if things are an error or an information that you as an accountant need to maybe have a look at, but not necessarily action anything. Those are being shown, and one of the feedbacks was that with the current errors and exceptions panel in Central, it was quite easy to not see those, given that they weren't in your face. So we've tried to make that the case, and we've equally added in the exceptions panel so it's on the right, so it's visible for you as part of your workflow. One of the things that we have also included is where you do have a warning, we also give you the link as well, so you can go directly to the source of that error so you can action it. And that's something that customers have fed back as being extremely valuable, so they're not having to source for, go in and look for it themselves. Again, we're looking to drive some efficiencies, even if it is saving a few clicks. So what we can do now is we can add some additional attachments. So let's say we want to add in some bank statements for this client to be included. We get a nice little check mark just to let us know that the attachments have been added, and then you also get a warning because I did run the validations before, so it will just let us know that you will need to run that validation again. But again, that's not going to stop you from submitting the tax return, so you can go about your day. We can view the documentation just to make sure that it is the right document that we've uploaded quite easily, and if we wanted to, we can also remove it. We've got the new print and view option, so this is where we essentially generate the tax bundle. And as part of our research, we did notice that when customers were producing the tax bundles, they were producing separate bundles that will go out to the client for client approval, and a separate bundle that will be submitted to HMRC. So we've tried to incorporate that in here with the document type. So let's say for the client, you want to send everything, including the attachments, but for the HMRC copy, you maybe didn't want to include the attachments. And if we had backing schedules implemented, this is where the backing schedules will also sit for you to select what appears and what doesn't appear. The only caveat there is for the capital gains that appears as default within the tax return. And the system will remember your selection each time. So you can generate your client bundle for the client, and it might just take a few seconds for that to load. And this is because it's quite a big document. But yeah, we can see that we've got our tax return, we've got our tax calculation, and then we've got all of the attachments that we included as well. So we can download that here, or we can download it using this button here as well. But what we have also added is the capability for those that do use our document management system for you to send that tax bundle to document management in Central, and it will send it to the correct client, the correct tax year, and also the correct assignment as well. So we've mapped all of that through. So at a click of a button, you don't need to download and then import it into CCH. Another thing that we are looking to add in is the capability for you to send that tax bundle for e-sign directly within the software. So you're not having to utilize third party or need to use another application. So for those that do use one-click, we're looking to incorporate that in. So our goal is to simplify your workflow as much as possible, and we know that for those customers that are using one-click, it's an additional application and it's an additional step for you to access that, to be able to do that. So we're bringing that functionality into iFirm, so another button will be included somewhere here for you to send to eSign, and we're looking to do it in two approaches. The first approach that is tried and tested, which is kind of DocuSign, Adobe Sign approach for eSign, and then there's also the client portal where your clients will need to sign in utilizing an email and password, but we have heard that there are a bit of a pain point around getting clients to utilize it. They only use it once a year, and typically they'll forget their password, so it's a bit of a faff having to go in and do a password reset. So we are looking at a creative way of how we can solve for that. So looking at things like maybe a client approval process where they might only need their email address or their phone number, and we'll be able to send a one-time passcode that they can then use to access and approve a tax return. And that will all be done through iFirm and through personal tax specifically. So we can go in once we've we've done our attachments and we've done our validations. In this instance, I've already run it because of it being a test, it's failed. And then if it was a success, we can go in and then we can submit, and then you get your audit trail of your submission log. So who submitted it, the time it was submitted, and also the versions as well is something that we are going to be adding in. So you'll be able to see what version was submitted and what amendment number it was as well. So you've got that full audit trail capability. If I was to go back into Central, we can see that the client appears here. And in order for me to access it, I can simply just click on the hyperlink and then I'll be redirected into iFirm. So there's that way to access it. But equally, I don't need to be logged into Central in order to access iFirm. I can just go directly through a browser. So I can open up Chrome. I was going to say Internet Explorer, but that doesn't exist anymore. And just type in the URL, and then that will take me to my browser. And then you'd log into iFirm. The same credentials that you would use to log into Central are the same credentials you would be using to log into iFirm once you are subscribed. And then we also give you a clear indication as to where this application, where this return was created. If I go to a client that's got a bit more tax returns, we can clearly see that for 2023-24, these are Central returns, and I can quite easily access them. If I click on the hyperlink, they will appear in Central. And then for all of my iFirm generated returns, they'll appear in the cloud. There's also one other way to access the cloud, and that's utilising the ribbon. So we've added in the iFirm buttons in here as well. I'm just conscious of time. So I will finish off with going to the main view and just showing you the dashboard. So at the start, I did link that client to my existing workflow. So if I can find Ida, she should appear in this list, unless I need to refresh it, which I will. Bear with me. There you go. And she appears here. So you can then go in and manually update your workflow. We are looking to add in some automation because we are going to be sending back the tax statuses that exist in iFirm into Central. So you've got that one central visibility of the progress of your returns. So that's coming up as well. So that's just a quick overview of what we've developed so far and what is to come. So I'll just pause there before I go back into the presentation, and before we go into Q&A, just a really quick shout out that, and I think this is some of the questions that we are getting around, okay, so what is the pricing and the commercials around this? We are doing a special offer at the moment for customers to join as an early adopter. So definitely reach out to your account managers or drop me and Lamorna an email, and we're happy to kind of walk you through that process for a limited amount of our customers. So it's first come, first serve. And it's going to be free of charge for 6 months. So definitely drop us a line if you are interested. So I can see Steph's activated the poll, so definitely do put in your options in there as well. So I'll quickly jump into the Q&A. So there's a question from Fozia. Will there be hyperlinks in the tax calculation to drill down to the data entry screen? Yes, there will. So that's something that we are going to be building out. It's currently targeted for early next year, so around Q1, ready for you to utilise it as part of the 2026-27 return. There's another question. If you have a tax return bundle letter, will that be automatically available in iFirm? So I'm not too sure in terms of the question pertaining to if I have a tax return bundle in Central, will that be available in iFirm? I might just need to reach out to you separately just to get some clarifications around that. There's a question of, do you know when corporation tax will be in the cloud? Lamorna might have a bit more of an answer to this one, but from my perspective, Lam, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, it's going to be starting in 2026.
Brilliant, thank you. One other question is, how do we report across iFirm tax and central, i.e. extra fields and tax data? So that's an exercise that we're currently doing with contact management. So there is a question around extra fields and how we cater for that, because we know different firms use extra fields for different purposes. So it's about how can we standardise that? Can we standardise that is one of the questions. But from a reporting capability, all of your reporting at the moment will need to be done within Central. So you can utilise things like your existing workflows, and when we do start to share the statuses from iFirm into Central, you'll be able to report that way as well. We are looking to build out reporting in the cloud, but again, that's not something that's going to be available this year. It's not going to be available early next year.
Dorcas, I can take the review and tag questions. So, no, review and tag is currently on-prem at the moment. It's but I am working on a project simultaneously to get the review and tag solution in the cloud as well. So it will basically sit within iFirm. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And then there's a few questions around MTD as well. So how will iFirm link into MTD, or will this be a separate software or program? So MTD will be in iFirm. It will be its own product, and I might have 1 minute to basically just show you how this works whilst I've got the system up. But like I said, there is a webinar on May 20th where we'll go through the quarterly submissions. But just really quickly, if you go into create, oh, I can't show you, it's timed me out. But we've got capabilities in, so we've added in a new return type within Central. So as long as you've got the 2026 tax year selected, which is our starting year for MTD, you'd get an additional drop down within the return type, which will be MTD for IT, abbreviated for income tax. If you select that, it's going to be a similar workflow to how you would launch a tax return. So that creating new tax year flow. Do we have time for one more question? Lam, is there any accounts questions you want to pick up? I'm conscious I've picked up a few tax ones.
No, I've been monitoring. I answered I answered some questions before as well. So no, I can't see any. There is just one other question. Will you please let us have a copy of this video for reference and revisit? Yes, I believe Steph will be sending it out via a link.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's all the questions.
Yeah, again, if we haven't answered your questions, myself and Lamorna will be going through them and replying, unless it's an anonymous question and we don't have any data. But do reach out to us if you've got any additional questions. But thanks again for your time, and hopefully this was useful.
Yes, thank you.